Hi, Rita Michelle here with the Organic Mothering blog. You can find me at www.dancingmomio, at blogspot.com. Something like that. I'll link it down below. It's Organic Mothering at dancingmomio.blogspot.com. Okay, so today I want to talk about something that inspired me yesterday, something I discovered just yesterday. I wasn't feeling very well, and I was kind of, dancing around on YouTube and trying to find things to entertain myself. And you know how YouTube will point you in the direction of other videos that might be interesting to you based on what you've been watching. And I came across this man named Brandon Straka. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's actually a group of 3 men who are being interviewed, and they are leaders of a movement called the #WalkAway campaign. And this is a group of people who were once liberals, who once voted Democrat, who once associated themselves with the Democratic Party because they felt like they had to, basically, because they were part of some sort of minority. Whether that was gay, like Brandon. One of the other leaders of the movement is a Jewish man who is also gay, and then there's a black man. So they are giving their testimonies and campaigning in order to encourage other people to do what they have done and to just walk away. So #WalkAway campaign. I'm not on Instagram, so I haven't seen it there, but I joined the Facebook group yesterday. So I just wanted to talk about kind of where we've gotten with these 2 sides, with this division in our country. Because I've often thought, why do we have these 2 sides? Like, I usually consider myself an independent. That's my personality. And I can always see both sides of an argument, unless it's very clearly just insane, right? If one side's just clearly evil or insane. But typically, I can see both sides of a question. And I can be the devil's advocate. I can argue the other side just for fun, even if I don't agree with it. So I just thought it was strange that people have become so one-sided, because I can't imagine that most people are completely on board with the Democratic Party or completely on board with the Republican Party on every single issue. Who lines up on every single issue of a party? I was conversing on Facebook with a friend of mine, and it was a couple years ago when Donald Trump pointed out to the media that they have completely, for 25 years or whatever it was, ignored the March for Life, the pro-life march on Washington, D.C. It had been going on for like 25 years. They had always acted like it didn't exist, completely ignored it. But then the media was all over the Women's March, the so-called Women's March. And planning massive coverage of that. So then their arm was twisted, and they had to cover the March for Life because they'd been called out and they couldn't deny it. Especially because most of them didn't even know what it was. What? Why haven't we been covering? I've never heard of that. Oh. So anyway, my friend referred to, she researched it herself, okay? She's a liberal, and she researched it, and she said, you're right. Your side has gotten the short end of the stick. Your side has not been covered by the media to the same degree as the pro-abortion, liberal side of women's issues. So I was like, okay, well, that's great that she actually took the time to not just parrot something she'd heard, and not to just out and out, deny that I could possibly be right about it, which is often what happens. But she did her own homework. So yeah, take that as a lesson. Let's do our homework, people. Okay. So instead of letting somebody else do your homework for you, that's lame. That's lame when you let someone else do your homework. And you just follow, you're a lemming, and you go off the edge of the cliff with the rest of the lemmings. You all run in the same direction and you go off the edge of the cliff. Okay, don't be one of those. Don't be a lemming. Okay? Somebody is doing yard work, so annoying. I hope they turn it off. I might have to go inside. Okay, but I think I figured out why we have these two distinct sides now. All right, why we're like on the verge of some sort of ideological civil war. And one of the reasons I think is because, and I just use the word ideological, there has been a merging of terms that used to have a distinction. So you used to be, okay, there was the Republican platform and the Democratic platform. Two political platforms. Now, of course, there are others, but those are the two that it always comes down to, right? And then there was ideology. Okay, so I'm going to read what my Merriam-Webster says about ideology. So what are we talking about here? Okay, so visionary theorizing. So it's a vision. It's a particular vision. A systematic body of concepts, especially about human life or culture. We're talking about ideas about life and culture. A manner or the content of thinking characteristic of an individual group or culture. So generalizing, okay, we're generalizing here about characteristics of certain groups. And then probably the most, the one that applies most here, the integrated assertions, theories, and aims that constitute a socio-political program. All right, I am going to have to take you inside, I think. Weed whacker or something, people for being so lazy and having to have everything electric. All right, I do not know what kind of light I'm going to have. Hopefully it's not abysmal. And you're probably going to see things not as clean as I normally like you to see them. Okay, so lighting, this is not great, but hopefully you can hear me at least. Okay, so it used to be that you were Republican or Democrat, but that wasn't the same. It was not synonymous with your ideology, which would be liberal or conservative. Liberal being left, conservative being right. Sometimes called traditional in place of conservative, or progressive in case of liberalism, okay? So you could be a liberal Republican, you could be a conservative Democrat, and you could be a moderate. I don't know, whatever that is, the middle of the road, right? You could be a moderate of either of those. Well, now, liberal means Democrat, and conservative means Republican, right? They are interchangeable, like what has happened with sex and gender. These do not mean the same thing, okay? Sex refers to whether you're male or female. It refers to anatomy. It refers to biology. That word has been eliminated and gender has replaced it because there's no such thing as sex anymore. It's fluid, okay? But that's a different topic for a different video. All right, let's see if I can get the light any better. Just bear with me for 1 sec. Okay, that is no better at all. All right, that's all right. I can look all washed out. I don't mind. All right, so so that's the first part. So this is why there are two sides, and this is why I think that you do now have to choose a side. I was getting away with just saying, well, I don't think either party's cool. I think they're both a bunch of immature frat boys getting too wild and crazy at a party, and I don't want to be part of either of those parties. And well, it used to bother me, like someone told me that at her church it was being preached that one party was more Christian than the other party. Okay, so there's the bag of worms. There's the can of worms. I'm going to let it out. There is one party that's more Christian than the other party. If we're talking about traditional Christianity, if we're talking about traditional values. So that's what it comes down to. And this is why it seems that you have to choose a side, because things have gotten really extreme on the left. Now, there are so-called alt-right groups. Yeah, there are white supremacists. There are neo-Nazis. I mean, these people are out there, but they're atypical, really. Whereas on the left, you have an ideology that, well, I want to look at just one component of what's going on with it and why it is different, and why it's become such a serious problem. I mean, there's lots of reasons, and why people are walking away. Okay, it has to do with what I'm going to call the silencing of anyone that does not agree with that extreme left liberal ideology. Democrats didn't used to be socialists, okay, and now that's really what they want now, is socialism for the United States of America. Patriotism? No. Borders? No. If you don't have borders, guess what else you don't have? A country. No borders, no country. Let's use common sense. Okay, so the silencing of anyone that doesn't agree with the ideology, and then the claws come out. And that's what the #walkaway movement is trying to get out there. You know, one of the videos, I'll try to link that too, that they did was a mini documentary of Black people specifically who feel like they had to vote Democrat, and because they were Black, there wasn't any choice. And then most of them were like, Obama never did anything for me. You know, what did the guy do for us? What has this party ever actually done for us? Nothing. Okay? So, the red pill. Okay, this is coming up a lot lately, being red-pilled. And it's coming out of the mouths of my generation, Generation X. Okay? So, it refers to the Matrix movie that came out in the 1990s, starring Keanu Reeves. And there was a trilogy, and the basic premise is that Keanu Reeves' character, Neo, discovered that human beings were actually, their lives were all in their heads. They were actually hooked up to this giant system where they were being used as batteries. Human beings were being used as batteries by the machines that had taken over, and had fake memories and fake lives being implanted into them, and like this hook up at the back of the neck and these other, you know, prongs in their bodies. So they were being kept alive bodily, and then their minds being completely controlled. And so he was told by Samuel L. Jackson's character that you can take the blue pill and you can go back to sleep and you won't remember any of this, and you can, you know, just live in La La Land, or you can take the red pill and you can see the truth. You can see reality and you're going to wake up, but there's no going back to sleep. So people, that's the analogy people are using, that they're being red-pilled about the Democratic Party. So, you know, the silencing, I mean, it's everywhere, and it's not just censorship, but that's, of course, a component of it. Faith Goldie, who does a YouTube show, she's a Canadian, and Facebook in Canada has an extreme censorship campaign going on right now. She was kicked off, and of course, you know, being portrayed as a Nazi and all of this. Conservatives are being kicked off, or like members of conservative groups on Facebook are just like, members will just disappear. A couple thousand members just gone from your group. And then, they say a robot did it or something crazy like that. But YouTube, it's happening too. So videos getting pulled, demonetized, little signs put on them like, this is offensive. Just, you've been warned. Do you want to continue to watch it? This is offensive. And it doesn't contain anything you would normally find offensive, that I would define as offensive, like, I don't know, pornography. F-bombs being dropped right and left, hate speak, but that's the thing, okay? Hate has been redefined, and this is how the silencing happens. If you say anything that contradicts the left ideology, that agenda, that platform of the Democratic Party, you are guilty of the crime of hate. Okay, so if you say that your values defend traditional marriage, you're not gay bashing, you're not saying necessarily that, gay people don't deserve equal rights or anything like that, but you express traditional values about marriage. You have a definition of marriage, and your definition is what the dictionary used to say marriage was, which is the same thing the Catholic Church defines marriage as. Okay, it's in the Catholic Church, it's a sacrament between one man and one woman. That doesn't mean you can't be legally married, okay, if you're two men or two women. It doesn't mean that, you can't have a legal homosexual marriage, but in the eyes of God, that would not be a valid marriage. Okay, I'm just telling you what the Catholic Church teaches. All right, so don't accuse me of hate and homophobia and all that kind of stuff, because that's what's happening. All right, and it's got to the extreme that the worst thing you can be is a white man in the United States. And if you're a Christian white man, traditional Christian white man, you are the devil. You are the Antichrist. Okay? And so Donald Trump is like the capital A Antichrist, because he's the president and he's a white man. Straight white man, Christian. That makes him the devil. So if you say anything, okay, if you exercise your First Amendment, is the First Amendment right? If you exercise your freedom of religion, your freedom of speech, all of the freedoms guaranteed to you by the Constitution, right, it's immediately categorized as hate if it does not mirror that left-wing ideology. And nobody wants to be accused of hate, much less like arrested for it or lose their job because of it. And that's what people are afraid of now. That they have to keep quiet. They have to keep silent. They can't admit that they voted for Trump. Okay? Because automatically you're stupid, you're a redneck, you're white supremacist, you're a Nazi, you're homophobic, you are, you hate everybody, basically. You're anti-woman, you're really anti-woman. So that's just what I want to bring out for the first video on this. I just wanted to kind of spread the awareness. I think that the walkaway movement had its first anniversary fairly recently, this spring or something. So it is not an old movement. It's still pretty new, and it's growing. And it just gives me hope, because people who have a lot more at risk than I do have broken silence, like Brandon Straka. he lives in New York. He's a gay man in New York City. He is supposed to be a liberal. Being a conservative, you lose friends, jobs, family members, people unfriend you, turn against you. Where I live, it's pretty conservative. Okay? So people that yammer on and on with their vitriol against Donald Trump and the Republican Party and say hateful things, they wouldn't say it out loud almost anywhere. Okay? They do it all on social media where they don't have any accountability. Because where I live, it's more conservative, and you just can't get away with the same things that you do on social media. You can't blast people in person. That's all I'll say about that. So, again, Rita Michelle at Organic Mothering, Dancing Momio, spelled dancing the usual way, MOMMIO. .blogspot.com, dancingmomio.blogspot.com. I will post this video there, as well as the links I mentioned and just a little bit of maybe additional information that I will post in the text at the blog. And I plan to keep doing these and just taking one issue at a time, one little piece of the puzzle at a time, because I think when you look at the big picture, when you stand back, it's like a mosaic. The little pieces of colored tile. If you look at just an individual tile, you don't see what the picture is about. It's only when you stand back and see all of these little colored tiles together that you see, this is a real thing. This is a serious problem. And there's a fight. There's a battle. And I think that it is a spiritual battle. I'm not saying that Democrats are all evil. And there are evil Republicans, just like there are evil Democrats. Okay, evil has no discrimination. But there is a party that is a party of death, and there is a party that's a party of life. And you got to, especially if you're a Christian, you have to decide which party you're going to. You really do. You can't walk the line. You can't be neutral. I mean, you can, but you can't. No, actually, you can't. I'll do a video on that. Why? If you're a Christian, you can't. Because guess what? You're called to battle. You're called to carry your cross. You're called to choose a side. Jesus said, "You're for me or you're against me." And sorry, but the view that I'm not pro-abortion. I just support a woman's right to choose. Okay, first of all, that's not the platform anymore. You're way behind. Okay, you're a throwback here to the 80s and 90s. That's not the platform anymore. It's not pro-choice. There isn't such a thing anymore. That's just not what it's about. And you can't. No, you have to choose. Sorry, you do. You do. And you don't have to believe me, but I'm right. So, all right. Thanks for listening if you've stuck with me this long, and I will try to keep these short-ish. Let's see, I'm at 23 minutes. I'll try to keep it under 25. All right. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.